Hi everyone, my name is Harshdeep and I'm the director of CLAIR Voices. Today we are interviewing Families for Freedom. The purpose of CLAIR Voices and this interview is to educate ourselves and our audience on refugee and immigrant issues through hearing the first-hand experience of affiliated personnel and to express our appreciation towards these organizations. CLAIR Voices branches out from Project CLAIR, which is a government-registered nonprofit that aids refugees and immigrants in providing free English education by matching up tutors and tutees. So now Giselle and then Yara, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, my name is Giselle, and I'm a member of CLAIR Voices and Project CLAIR's curriculum guideline team.
Hi guys, my name is Yara. I'm a student at the University of Oregon studying human physiology, and I'm also part of CLAIR's podcast as an Arabic translator.
And then Josiah and Banta, do you want to introduce yourselves as well as Families for Freedom?
Hello, I'm Josiah. I'm an intern at Families for Freedom. I've been a part of Families for Freedom since 2005 and became more active when I did the MLP program in 2019. And Fanta, would you like to tell them about what Families for Freedom is?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Fanta. I am the senior organizer at Families for Freedom. I've been involved in Families for Freedom since 2007 when my father was first detained and deported by ICE. And my mom was looking for organizations that could help her through the process. And since then, we've been members participating in many different events, protests, vigils, rallies, meetings, and we've learned a lot about the immigration system through that as well. So just a little bit about Families for Freedom. We're an immigrant rights and human rights organization that was founded in 2002, and we fight to end the detention or deportation of people who are not from this country. So, obviously immigrants and migrants. And that includes people with criminal convictions. So people who have come to this country, immigrants who have come to this country and may have ended up getting into contact with the law, with the criminal justice system, and ended up with a criminal conviction and are now facing deportation as a result of it. So we do a lot of support, advocacy, and education work. And the support and advocacy, a lot of that is around campaign work, whether that be individual campaigns or pushing for legislative bills that could potentially help the immigrant community. So we do push for comprehensive immigration reform and for there not to be criminal bars, because we do know a lot of people who are facing detention are the ones with criminal convictions. And they tend to cut those people out of many types of legislation and prevent them from getting a pathway to citizenship or staying with their families. So part of our education, Josiah sort of already mentioned one of our programs, the MLP, which is the Members Leadership Program. And that one is our leadership development program where we teach members and participants our organizing strategies and tactics that we've seen work in the immigration movement with our organization and with other organizations around the country or individuals around the country in stopping someone's detention or preventing their deportation. And we also have something called our Speakers Bureau, where we teach people political education and like history and public speaking skills so that they're able to give like a narrative or speak on their stories with a clear message. And then we do Know Your Rights presentations with community centers, high schools, colleges, other schools like that, to teach people their rights when they're faced with ICE. So that's just like a general idea of the different things that we do. And we're also involved with like coalitions and other organizations and stuff like that. So yeah.
Great, thank you for that introduction for Families of Freedom, thank you for taking the time to be here today. With that, I'll jump right in with my first question. So a big component of Families for Freedom is advocacy, as you mentioned. And I was hoping that you could share about some of your recent or ongoing campaigns and your experience in campaigning and protesting.
I guess I can start off. Our one campaign that we are heavily involved in, and I'm personally involved because my father was deported back in 2018. And since then, there has been the Bring Gene Home campaign. And the way we went about advocating and protesting for him is we held vigils and we did rallies. We had a bunch of walks and different types of protests to, just kind of get the story out there We also reached out to many organizations and other like news outlets that would be willing to tell the story, just so that people know that people are still getting deported. It's a very serious thing in the US, and that is tearing families apart. And as with that campaign, we had a huge victory recently because he was just pardoned by Governor Northam of Virginia and was granted a 90-day humanitarian parole. That's just one of the many campaigns that we are a part of. There's also a James Pamphile camp. I always mess up his last name. Well, what happened with his campaign was he was facing deportation, and the day he had a check-in with ICE, Governor Cuomo granted him clemency, and we were gathering support for him because it was a relatively new campaign for us. We were just recently getting involved, so that was a huge victory for us. The day before that, we had people come together to make signs because we were going to go to his ICE checkup with him, in case ICE were to try and randomly detain him. And we advocate for people in a lot of different ways, but those are just two campaigns that we've been a part of recently.
Yeah, and just to like branch off of what Josiah was talking about with the James Pamphile campaign, like he said, it was really, really recent, and we along with other organizations as part of the Clemency Coalition, came together to create like a big push for Governor Cuomo to give James a pardon. And it became a lot more urgent when we heard that Governor Cuomo was going to resign and leave office. And because James, so this was like, we had like a month basically to do this work, because James had a check-in with ICE, like Josiah mentioned, on August 18th. So we had to like learn about James, learn about his case, and then do this huge push within the community and with the governor's office to get James the pardon that he needed. So, and like, it was a really big victory getting that pardon. It was unexpected, and we were ready to go out and like rally in front of Federal Plaza on the day that James had his check-in. We had like a petition that was sent out. It was a whole social media push, a petition, Twitter storm. We did all types of things to get Governor Cuomo's attention. And I think we did get his attention because James ended up getting his pardon. And James's pardon's application was in with the governor for 3 years, since 2018. So, it was super urgent. We needed the governor to give him that pardon and not wait any longer. And it happened. So now James has a chance of staying in the US and a pathway to getting legal status now.
Wow, that's great to hear about your work with James, and especially under these time limits. Is there a particular campaign that is particularly memorable to you or significant to you?
The one campaign that is memorable to me and significant to me was, of course, the Bring Gene Home campaign, because I've been involved in Families for Freedom since 2005, like I mentioned before. But at the time, I was just a child. I was only 2 years old. He was just detained. He came back. So he's been detained multiple times throughout my lifespan. And, it's always been a thing. Like, I knew what was going on, but I never actually understood how serious it was to, separate families and just tear people's lives apart over, in a lot of instances, one small act that they committed. Like in my dad's case, he committed a crime over 3 decades ago and has since then became a model citizen. So for me, it was kind of just eye-opening to, just see, oh, this is actually happening. It's not just, random people getting deported, random people who have no families. No, these are real people, real fathers, real brothers, real family members, community members just being taken away because, everyone makes mistakes and the US government just wouldn't even give them a second chance. So it was memorable because it was my father, and it was really my first time actually seeing what was happening to people and actually going through it. That really changed my life. And that's why I like working here at Families for Freedom, because as long as I'm working here, I feel like I can make a difference in, helping to make sure that another, teenage boy doesn't have to go what I went through. So that for me was the most memorable case. And it's also a very interesting case because not often are people who are deported, returning back. So now I can also see what the procedure is like for, him getting his citizenship reinstated and just seeing how the whole process goes through. Even when there's victory, there's still a lot left to go on. He's still going to be fighting for the rest of his life. And I don't want to say I'm excited, but I'm prepared to see, what's going to happen in the next years to come.
It's great to hear that you found your place at Families for Freedom and from your personal experience are able to make such a tangible impact. I'm shifting to a slightly different question. I noticed on the Families for Freedom website that they offer training to immigrant families on Know Your Rights. So I'm curious as to what you would say are some of the most important rights for immigrants who you help to know and why.
Yeah, so the Know Your Rights presentations, we offer those to our community members and high schools and colleges, and that's basically like anyone in our community who is directly affected by the immigration system or a loved one. Because we personally know, and a lot of people know, that ICE has tactics that they use when they're trying to detain somebody. Many of them are tricks, and many people do not know their rights. A lot of people who are immigrants, especially if they're undocumented, tend to just try and stay away from anything regarding the law or anything like that. And they're always afraid. And so, many of them don't speak English, or they're just not educated enough, and they don't know what their rights are, and they don't know that those rights are still protected under the Constitution. They don't realize that just because they're not citizens doesn't mean that they don't have those rights as well, as long as they're on US soil. So the purpose of this is to prevent as many families from going through what we know could happen if ICE comes and take one of their loved ones from them. So we teach them about the different tactics, which some of us personally experienced, that ICE uses. One of which is like when ICE comes and knocks on your door at like 5 a.m. while the whole family is asleep. That actually happened with my family. Like, it was unexpected, and they do that because they know it's unexpected, and they know people are not thinking too much about opening the door. And once you open the door, that can be seen as that can be interpreted by them as permission to enter, as consent to go inside your home. And so we try to tell people, you don't have to open the door to these people. They can say we're police. They might lie to you and say that they're police, and then they need to talk to you about a case or something like that. You don't have to open a door to speak to them. You can speak to them through the door, and they can demand that you open the door, but you don't have to. If they don't have a warrant, you don't have to open it. Don't let them scare you into opening it. And then we also teach them which warrant is valid, because ICE that's another one of their tactics, is that they like to use administrative warrants rather than judicial warrants. And the administrative warrants are warrants that are signed by ICE officers themselves. They're not signed by judges. And so we try to tell people, you have to look at the warrant. Actually, don't just look for the word warrant, look for that signature from a judge. And it'll say something like the honorable judge, or something like that. It might be a sign, a signature, it might be a stamp, whatever it is, but look for that. Don't just look for the word that says warrant for arrest or something like that. And so we're hoping with us teaching them what to look for and what to watch out for, that there'll be less of a chance of their family being taken apart, and they'll have more of a chance to get a lawyer if they're able to afford one, or find a pro bono lawyer, or basically prepare themselves for whatever ICE might do next. If they do happen to open the door, we tell them you don't have to answer anything. You can request that lawyer, right? Or request to wait till you get that lawyer. So that's the main point of those presentations, just us trying to inform as many of our community members as possible about their rights, and also about the fact that as long as you're not a U.S. citizen, you are at risk. You can be at risk of deportation, especially if you come into contact with the law. A lot of people are under the misconception that if they're legal permanent residents, if they're a green card holder, that they're safe, and that they're untouchable. And when we say this to them, like, no, that's not true, it kind of shocks them, and they realize, like, and we show them why, and they realize that, you know, they really do need to be careful. Even if they're a green card holder, it doesn't mean that they're completely safe in this country. If you're not a U.S. citizen, anything could pretty much happen to you. So, yeah.
I was actually unaware of all of these tactics, specifically with the different warrants, but that just highlights the ever more importance of learning this information. So thank you for sharing about that.
Yes, of course, of course. We could offer it to you guys too if you need it.
No, like I'm familiar with some of these because my family immigrated here too, and you know, the same idea with the green card, and you know, they weren't aware that they were completely safe. So like it's you know, from people like who have family who have immigrated here, this is stuff that is, you know, every day to them, and they know this. But for people who don't, you know, a lot of times the media can also flip things around and make it seem things like that are not what you're trying to or like they're just spending like lies or anything like that. And I just want to ask you guys, like, like, and when you're promoting your intentions and your cause, how has the media played a role in this? Like, would you say that it's damaged more than helped your cause, or the other way around? And how would you say you battle the media landscape that often goes against your intentions?
Right. So I'm sure, Josiah, you can also speak on this just based on your father's campaign as well. But it's always been very important to know who is, like, who are the members, the big players of the media, and what are their thoughts on immigration and immigrants, right? And it's always important to know who you're going to, making sure that you're going to people who are not going to change the narrative. And also, the other big thing is for us to be able to control the narrative ourselves, right? And not allowing them to change our stories or to twist to or add their own spin to it. Even in interviews, right? Journalists are trained to lead you towards certain types of answers by asking you a question in a specific way or asking you the same question in multiple different ways. And so we're aware of that, and we try to make sure that we're the ones who are controlling the narrative. We're the ones who are controlling the direction of like controlling our own stories and the message that people are getting from our stories. And we know just how important that is. And of course, we're always going to have those media outlets that are going to stand against immigration and immigrants and have these very harmful messages put out into the world about us. And so, I mean, it's always a never-ending battle with those media outlets and fighting back against that. You know, they always try to paint immigrants as dangerous and they're going to cause problems to the U.S. and to other people who are living here, U.S. citizens who are already here, or even just other immigrants. Like there are some immigrants out there who separate themselves from people who are undocumented. They say, you know, I came here the right way. Why didn't you do the same thing? And it causes this divide, right? The media also does that, where it creates this divide. And so we're always trying to push against that. We're trying to push against this, you know, quote unquote, good immigrant, bad immigrant narrative. We're always trying to control our own stories and making sure that the message that we want to put out there is clear. The demands that we have are made clear to media whenever we're speaking to them or whenever they're doing a story on us or anything like that. So yeah, that's just that. I mean, that's really all we can really do is just try our best to ensure that we're going to the right media outlets and that we're controlling the narratives ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with you. I mean, the media outlets are definitely heavily regulated and basically the main source of information for a lot of people. So, and I also want to like transition a little bit to your infographic about who's funding ICE. And I saw that Amazon was like a primary income for many of these programs that constitute to ICE. And, you know, Amazon is a part of everyday people's lives, and, you know, they don't even realize what they're contributing to, or even if they do realize like, oh, like Amazon's funding these programs, like it's hard for people to see the connection between like purchasing something online to someone getting deported. And I feel like it's really hard to translate that in really get people to notice that. And I was going to ask, what do you think is the best way to shift people's attention from like these very powerful and popular companies to the damaging effect that they have on people who are facing deportation?
Oh, sorry, my mute button was acting weird. But yeah, so it is very hard to get people to think about the fact that just the action of buying something from a company like Amazon that contributes to this horrible and harmful deportation system. It's hard for them to think about that, right? And then, like you said, like people, it's too convenient. It's too convenient, especially something like Amazon, like buying something online and having it at your door in like 2-3 days. Like most people don't want to give up that convenience. But I think it's important to make as visible as possible our community members who are directly affected by this deportation machine, and trying our best to connect them to companies like Amazon and the deals that they have with ICE. And rather than just centering Amazon, we want to center those people, right? Make sure they're as visible as possible and showing people like these are real people, they have real families, real lives, and they're being affected by you buying this product from Amazon. You might think that you're just one person and it does nothing, but think about the fact that you're one of millions on Amazon buying things every day. Now Amazon is able to get that funding that they need, or the power, not the funding, but the power that they need in order to collect information, or have these partnerships with ICE and these deals with ICE in order to take that community member that's down the street from you, or that's your neighbor, or someone you see at the supermarket every day. Like that person can literally be gone the next day just because, and you might not think it's that serious, but it is. Like they can be gone the next day because of that. And so I think when you frame it that way, rather than like trying to, I mean, I guess you want to elicit some feelings of guilt from people, because that's the only way you can really get them to think about their actions. So rather than putting the focus just on these companies, it's like, okay, make these people visible, make sure that they see that this is a real person with a real life. And this might be somebody who's even down the hall from you, down the street from you. And you could be the cause of this person being taken. If you don't make the demands that, one, either you just stop shopping with Amazon, or you demand that Amazon stop making deals with ICE, like this is just going to continue in other countries like Amazon. I mean, companies like Amazon. So I think it's just important to center the people who are being directly affected by this.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I would also say that maybe giving the idea to people that they literally have the power like within their hands, like when they order something on their phone, like they didn't something along those lines, because again, like how you mentioned, they don't even realize what they're doing, and just giving light to people who are being affected the most could be the best way possible. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Letting them know that they do have that power. That's definitely also like a really important thing to communicate with people.
So we're kind of nearing the 30-minute mark. So we'll just wrap it up, like up the interview. But thank you so much for providing your like insight, as well as educating us on ICE and like all these risks that I honestly wasn't really aware of, because I'm from Canada. We don't really have ICE. We have like similar things, of course, but I don't hear about ICE a lot, or as much as we should, from media outlets. But having this firsthand kind of like interaction was so enlightening, and I feel like everyone should know what risks ICE poses, as well as how we can help them, whether that's like a simple thing like not buying from Amazon, going to like other areas, but just being able to contribute to your local community is so important. And just thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. And we appreciate you guys wanting to learn more about our organization. And I'm glad that some of you were able to actually learn something. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was really nice meeting you guys. And I also learned a lot about ICE and deportation.